I do think a thing you'll notice about this option is your sorcery points will be tighter than they have ever been. Because one option on this list, Shadow Walk, is like a whole level of feature that doesn't cost you sorcery points to use. And even then it kind of does, because it wants you to use Eyes of the Dark, which gives you the second 2-point sorcery point use of darkness, right? So there are a lot of ways to spend sorcery points here.
Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're doing another Sorcerer subclass. Today's class is the Shadow Magic Sorcerer.
Spooky, dark, evil. This, like, I think they figured out in the other options that all you need to do to fix Sorcerer is give them like 3 extra spells. This gives you 1 extra spell, which makes it a kind of a tall order to go through all the way with it. But there is some neat stuff here. There are some like cool builds that you could mess around with, I think. So I don't like hate this option. It just isn't as strong as some of its competition, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool, but yeah, I could do with some more spells.
So you start with your quirks. So the Shadow Sorcerer, I think, was the first option to get quirks like this. And it's just a cute little DA table. It says, like, you're always cold to the touch, or you barely bleed even when you're badly injured. Your heart beats once a minute. The event sometimes surprises you. Like, they're very cute. They're very
You
edgy.
blinked
Big fan.
once last week.
Yeah.
Like,
they're
and
lovely.
I missed it.
Unlucky.
I didn't get to role play that.
It's very eerie. I adore it.
Yeah.
They are just, I think these little quirks do a lot to bring characters to life within the mind of a player. And I like that a lot. The actual first level features you get, though, you get 2. You get Eyes of the Dark. So for first level, you have Dark Vision with a range of 120 feet. Also, when you reach 3rd level in this class, you learn the Darkness spell, which doesn't count against the number of sorcerer spells you know. In addition, you can cast it by spending 2 sorcery points or by expending a spell slot. If you cast it with sorcery points, you can see through the darkness created by the spell. Neat. Breaking parity on magical darkness is pretty powerful. You can do, like, conceivably, you could take this as the sorcerer option alongside Eldritch Blast or nonsense with Fiend or Devil Sight, and you like make a bunch of clouds of darkness. This is an easy way to do it. You just shoot through them with advantage a whole bunch. Fine and dandy. It's an nifty way to do it. If you want to stay core sorcerer, you're not making a lot of attack rolls still, unless you go in on like Scorching Ray and stuff. So there isn't a ton of ways for you to get a huge advantage out of this, unless you're like some kind of melee gish hybrid thing, which doesn't really work out unless you're like quickening booming blades or something. And then that's very narrow and requires a billion sorcery points. Because remember, you only break the magical darkness parity. Like, you only see through it if you spend sorcery points on it. So there's going to be a lot of little hiccups already that we can sort of start to see as far as making builds with this. But it can be done, and they can be kind of neat.
Well, how long does the darkness spell last?
So darkness is loading. It's got a concentration of 10 minutes, so you can't have a concentration on other things.
Right.
I can't remember if you can stick it to stuff. Yeah, you can stick it to an object and bring that object around with you. So you could like just put this on your quarterstaff or whatever and walk around in your giant bubble of darkness if you want. Your party will hate you, but you can see through it, so that's nice.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm just saying, if you use your sorcery points, you can easily get through a fight with it.
Yes, and remember, at 3rd level, you will have a total of 3.
Yeah.
So 2 of those will be a darkness, which means you're not doing a lot of twinning or quickening or empowering or any of those effects, which I think you do kind of want a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You do get another feature at 1st level. It's called Strength of the Grave. Starting at 1st level, your existence in a twilight state between life and death makes you difficult to defeat. When a damage reduces you to 0 hit points, you can make a charisma saving throw. On the DC is 5 plus the damage taken. On a success, you instead drop to 1 hit point. You can't use this feature again if you are reduced to 0 hit points by radiant damage or by a critical hit. You can't use this feature if that happens. After the saving throw succeeds, you can again until you finish a long rest. So you get 1 use of it until you succeed, and once you succeed, it goes on cooldown to your next long rest. It can't be by a crit or radiant damage. It's the zombie passive, which is bad. Like, not great.
It's better at 1st level than it is as a capstone feature, which we've seen similar things.
Definitely true. I do think at 1st level, this is probably where this feature's at its strongest, because that's the one where you're most likely to die, and the one where the damage is likely to be lowest, where you are most likely to succeed it. So it's got a lot of things going in its favor for level 1. And having a a free stapled death ward to you. That's not the worst thing ever. There's not a lot of build direction to go off of there. I don't know if zombie was the direction they really should have gone with this, but it's the direction they went with. So sure, now you can cosplay a zombie, I guess. Neat. It's fine. It's not amazing.
It's all right.
It gets worse as the game progresses, I think. But then again, maybe you'll have those moments where me not going down matters a whole lot. So
those two, getting them at first level, I think is okay because they are usable throughout your sorcerer career.
True. And they're also like, so I think there's kind of these two main design premises that happen with subclasses where you either have options like Fathomless, which they kind of go all in around building a specific kind of feature. So their tentacle is like what the whole archetype gets. And there are other ones that are more like this, which are just like an eclectic toolbox of stuff. Just how to give me a lot of ways to play a dark-based character. I think these are two little tools in your tool belt. Like you're not going to build on these all that much if you don't have to, at least. And I don't think you're given a lot of tools to build around them that much, but like they're neat little bonus abilities you get in your darkness sorcerer, and that's perfectly reasonable. You don't need everything to be built around.
Seeing through your own darkness, you can make more use of that later as you have more sorcery points, or like you said, if you dip into warlock and get a devil sight.
Yeah, it's a thing you can do, but like that's basically learning darkness at that point.
Yeah,
if you get devil sight anyway, right? And that's like, okay, you got a bonus spell. You gotta got that in the warlock class anyway. Not important. 6th level the feature I think I like most in this archetype is called Hound of Ill-Omen. At 6th level, you get the ability to call for the Howling Creature of Darkness to harass your foes. As a bonus action, you can spend 3 sorcery points to summon a Hound of Ill-Omen to a target one creature you can see within 120 feet. The Hound uses the Dire Wolf statistics with the following changes. It is medium and not large. Boo! And it counts as a monstrosity, not a beast. It appears with a number of temporary HP equal to half your sorcerer level. It can move through other creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain. It takes 5 force damage if it ends its turn inside an object. And at the start of your turn, at the start of its turn, the Hound automatically knows its target's location. If the target was hidden, it is no longer hidden from the Hound. With me so far?
Yes.
The Hound appears in occupied space of your choice within 30 feet of the target. Roll initiative for the Hound. I don't recommend doing that. I'd recommend have it go after you. It's way easier to track. Anyway, on his turn, it can move only towards its target by the most direct route, and it can use its action only to attack the target. The Hound can make opportunity attacks, but only against its target. Additionally, while the Hound is within 5 feet of the target has disadvantage on saving throws against any spell you cast. The Hound disappears if it's reduced to 0 hit points, if the target is reduced to 0 hit points, or after 5 minutes. Get all that.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know that they needed to, cripple it as much as they did, but I guess, yeah, I was gonna say, like, if you're a gnome or a halfling or something, you can ride it, but it's only around for 5 minutes, and it's got a very specific list of things it can do.
And a very specific job. Its job is to kill one creature and kill it good. So
you know what? Is it to kill? Or, I mean, it states at the beginning is to harass, and I think that might be a better description. I don't know how much, especially as you progress in levels, like the Hound doesn't get any tougher. So
it gets more temporary hit points. It gets temporary hit points equal to half your sorcerer level, which equates to like 10 at the capstone, which is not a lot. Especially given this thing has 37 hit points out the gate, which is not, again, a lot of hit points. I do think there's room in this game to have more narrow summoning like this. I like the idea, because summons are already so powerful, right? Of maybe a summon effect that only does something like attack one target. I really think that's a really fine space to explore. I really wish you could spend a spell slot on this instead of sorcery points, or got a free use of it, or didn't have to spend half the points you have to get this one dog. It gives you one bonus attack for it's +5 to hit, 2d6 +3 piercing damage, and it can knock things prone. Again, we were talking about briefly, like, maybe you do some kind of jank build where you're quickening booming blades. This, with a dire wolf knocking things prone, now you got a lot of different ways to get advantage on your stuff. The gears are kind of turning. It doesn't look great, but it's a thing you can do more often than not.
Something else I don't like about it is you have to see your target. That kind of, for hidden targets, that's not crazy useful.
Yeah, this thing's not really good at tracking. You already have to know where the thing is, and then it's like, great, now go kill it. This feels like you're sicking a dog on somebody, right? Not like you're having it sniff them out.
If it hides after you do that or something, then yeah, sure, that's fine. But How often is that happening?
Yeah, if for some reason Hunter's Mark secondary text almost never comes up, it doesn't happen often. Usually the things are fight to death, especially with monsters. So,
Yeah, it would be a lot cooler if you just like, I feel like there's somebody around here. All right, dog, go sniff them out. But
I
yeah,
really like. There's so many neat little elements to this. I think part of it that I like is on complex battle maps, this does kind of guarantee it can get to its target, right? Because like it can go in the
mhm,
floor and run through the floor through like gaps and stuff. It can go through
right.
walls or whatever it needs to. Pass through barricades, pass through enemies, whatever it's got to do to get there, it can get there. I like that conceptually a lot. I think there's a cool look to it. It's also really cheap to use, right? You can just like cast third level spell, send out a dog. Who gives a shit? It'll be dead in a second anyway. But you could just, if you got 18 sorcerer points around, you will just throw these out there, right? You will just
Yeah,
not have any issue just sending out another Hound of Omen. Because the only limitation to it is the 3 sorcery point cost. I think that's kind of fine. Now, at the upper tiers, it's going to look a lot worse because it's only 2d6 plus 3 damage that doesn't scale at all. This definitely suffers from the summoning system whenever they used core stat blocks instead of scaling monster stat blocks, which they switched over to. But it's still, I think, a pretty cool, pretty fun feature. I would love to play with this personally. I think it's neat. I think they
but
probably could have
even
simplified
at
it,
higher
but
levels, I mean, like, so I'm looking for the yeah. All right, you can still chase down targets, knock them prone, set up your allies for attacks.
that's a really
Um,
good point. This does like go bread and butter with your paladin or fighter ally, right?
yeah,
It's neat. I like the
and
feature.
yeah,
Again, I wouldn't necessarily call it the powerful, nor would I even say it's like that much of a build direction, but it is another little tool in the Shadow Sorcerer's toolbox of just stuff to do.
yeah, it's a
Continuing that
fun
trend,
thing.
yeah, we got Shadow Walk at 14th level. So at 14th level, you get the ability to step from one shadow into another. When you are in dim light or darkness, as a bonus action, you can teleport up to 120 feet to a non-occupied space you can see that is also in dim light or darkness, which is a monk feature. Shadow Monk gets
Yes,
almost this verbatim with a shorter range, I think. But it's still cool. It's still gonna be neat. And this is like, hey, now you actually can do some neat stuff with darkness, where you cast darkness somewhere to teleport to a far range darkness somewhere else if you need to in a pinch.
yeah. Unfortunately, darkness only has a range of 60 feet.
I mean, that's still like if you have a pool of darkness near you, that's a 60-foot
Yeah,
second level teleport. So kind of in the way it kind of lets you replace Misty Step with it. Like you don't need to put Misty Step on your sheet because you have darkness and you can get it at a discount because like sorcery points are not quite equal to spell levels. So that's fine. I don't hate
yeah,
that. I like that it's a way to teleport without casting a spell. So you will have circumstances where you're kind of encouraged to have your darkness up. So you can be like, oh crap, gotta go. Teleport from my darkness here to that darkness in the corner while casting a spell on the way out. That's nice. That's takes one of those Misty Step problems away that it's you can't also cast a spell the same round as it. This does play really well as a spellcaster ability, I think.
yeah. And I mean, there's generally always going to be a little patch of darkness near where you or dim light where
Yeah.
you want to go.
Or you can like orchestrate it, right? You can orchestrate
Yeah,
a way that darkness gets somewhere you need to be. It's
yeah.
cool. I like it.
Especially if you're a shadow magic sorcerer. I don't see you going out in prairies in the middle of the day
Yeah, we also kind of
picking
left that to your play,
wildflowers.
right? Like we're no
Yeah,
longer fighting on the homestead. We're kind of fighting in hell or on, a giant palace in the sky or someone's ancient dungeon down below. We end on 18th level Umbral Form. Starting at 18th level, you can spend 6 sorcery points as a bonus action to transform yourself into a shadowy form. In this form, you have resistance to all damage except force and radiant, and you can move through other creatures and objects if they were difficult terrain. You take 5 force damage if you end your turn inside an object. You remain in this form for a minute and ends early if you're incapacitated, die, or you dismiss it as a bonus action. God, I wish you got a free use of this.
yeah. 6 sorcery points is a lot, even at eight. Yeah,
That's
even at 18th level. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a 30 of resources for it. Now it is resistance to all damage. That's banger. That's good. You'll use that a lot. It helps you maintain concentration on stuff. I do think a thing you'll notice about this option is your sorcery points will be tighter than they have ever been. Because one option on this list, Shadow Walk, is like a whole level of feature that doesn't cost you sorcery points to use. And even then it kind of does because it wants you to use Eyes of the Dark, which gives you the second 2 point sorcery point use of darkness, right? So
yeah,
there are a lot of ways to spend sorcery points here. I think if you're intimidated by meta magic and like this aesthetically, you will have a blast playing this option, specifically because you don't have to think about your sorcery points that hard and can instead just spend them on these cool features and you'll have a good time. If you do really have a vision for what your sorcery points look like as far as meta magic goes, I think this becomes much, much harder to stomach because of the costs. All the costs on Umbral Form, the costs on Hound of Illumine, like even the costs on Eyes of the Dark, you're not going to use those features as much if you want to keep twinning stuff or keep empowering stuff, right? You're not going to use the features as much if you want to use a lot of subtle spell magic. I could definitely see this kind of character loving playing around with subtle spell, doing some shifty darkness, subterfuge based stuff. If you can't, if you're limited on sorcery points, you're gated on them, you're going to have to make decisions between using some of your core features, and that's never going to feel great, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm gonna try not to use Eyes of the Dark with sorcery points. I want to use my Hound regularly,
Costs
and
3 a pop.
I'm probably never getting to 18th level, so that's all right.
If you do get there, though, hey, why not? Risen stall damage, you'll probably use them big. If you're doing one big set beats fight for 18th level characters, you will gladly spend 6 of them there. If you're doing 5 encounters, when do I use this? Altogether, I think this thing gets a B. The costs are a little bit higher. I really think if this were designed in the modern era, they would give you a free use of a lot of it. Like I think you would get 1 free Hound for sure, and you would probably get Umbral format either a slightly lesser cost, or you would get a free use, and it'd be like a once per long rest thing. I think they would rebalance a lot of those little bits. At least I would want them to. Especially, like, I'd love them to get 1 free use of darkness, or like not concentration of darkness, something like that, and make it a little bit better. But as is, I do think you can have a good time playing it. I think it's a cool little toolbox option that gives you all the little things that I want to make my dark, edgy sorcerer come to life. Just not quite as many spells as I'd want, you know?
I'd like your darkness for this to have a range of 120 feet, so you can get your maximum shadow walk out of it. Yeah,
that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
But yeah, B sounds right.
You can't wait. You can do that.
What?
Use distance spell it.
Oh, there you go. Now you spent more sorcery points.
We also found the use for distance spell. We don't often find uses for that.
All right, good. Well, that's good for it. Yeah, I think you'll have fun playing this.
Yeah, I think there's not a single dead level here, even if level 1 is a bit iffy.
Yeah, I think level 1's all right. It's not amazing, but yeah, I'm twinning my darkness, or distancing my darkness. I'm teleporting all over the place.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was Shadow Magic Sorcerer. Fun stuff. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. Let us know what you think down in the comments section below. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.